Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you to my channel, Home of the Crown. It's a channel where everyone is welcome. I've decided to start a YouTube channel because God has done some amazing things in my life and I would like to share. Um, what I would like to talk about today is something that happened this week. And again, it attests to the fact that God is real and He's working in my life in miraculous ways. And if I can encourage one person through these videos, through this YouTube channel, then I will count it a success. But the purpose is that God get the glory. So what He's been doing in my life has a lot to do with my medical situation, my health situation. I have a few different situations. Right now, I have a endocrinologist, hematologist, cardiologist, pulmonologist, nephrologist, and I'm leaving somebody out. And I also have a primary care that's quarterbacking everything. So what I'd like to talk about today is a situation that I developed in 2019. It was discovered. And what it was is a situation, I believe the acronym is TPI. It's a low platelet issue with my blood. Platelets is a chemical in your blood that allows you to clot. So accidentally cut yourself, bleeding stops, it's because your platelets have done that for you. So it's an issue, obviously, because it can be external or internal. It's possible for a person to bleed out if their platelets are low or stay low. So in 2019, this situation was discovered. So I was in the hospital for a different issue, which I'll talk about in another video. But as far as the platelet issue, when I got out of the hospital and my primary care doctor looked at my lab results from the hospital, he noticed that there was a low platelet issue there. So for whatever reason, my platelets kept declining. And according to my doctor, he didn't know why. So he set me up with a hematologist, and I started seeing the hematologist once every 2 weeks. It had started getting to a point where they had to up my appointments to once a week because my platelets would drop dramatically over a few days. So a routine had started to develop. And the routine was I would get up in the morning, usually on a Wednesday, go get blood work done. I'd be on my way to work later on that evening. I've been working the 4 to midnight shift. I would go do my blood work, be on my way to work later on that afternoon, and I would get a phone call. Daryl, your platelets are low, extremely low. You need to go to the emergency room. So the first time I got the phone call, I said, okay, I'll go, but I'm gonna go to work. I'll do my shift. I'll go after I get off from work. And the answer from my doctor was, no, you need to go now. So, okay, I feel like that's their job. That's what they're paid to do. If that's your recommendation, turn the car around, I'm going to the emergency room. Went to the emergency room. I stayed there about 2 weeks. I believe, if I remember correctly, my platelets were down to 7. Normally, for me, my platelets were, according to my doctor, were looking back at prior blood work, was around or between 150,000 and 200,000, somewhere in that range. So when I say seven, I mean 7,000. Um, so I went to the emergency room. They got me in there. I stayed there about 2 weeks. They got my platelets up to, I believe it was around 75. They were giving me infusions. Um, I did that, got out of the hospital, still seeing the hematologist, and within the next 2 weeks, I would do my blood work, get the phone call, Daryl, you got to go to the emergency room. So this had become a routine, and needless to say, it's something that I got frustrated with pretty quick. According to them, they had no idea. When I say them, I mean the hematologist or my primary care. They couldn't explain why this situation developed or how to remedy the situation, except infuse me, and then hopefully my body will correct itself and start producing platelets. So, to my understanding, the issue is my body started recognizing platelets as something that shouldn't be there. So it would destroy the platelets that were being created for whatever reason. I had been fine as far as that situation, like I said, until around 2019 that developed. So I was back and forth, in and out the hospital a lot. And had it not been for my superiors at work being understanding to my situation, it could have got bad, or I guess I should say worse. So there came a time when I got that phone call, and I said to my doctor, listen, if this is going to be my life, then somebody needs to tell me that, because I have some serious choices to make. If I'm going to work 2 weeks, be out for 2 or 3 weeks, go back to work for 2 weeks, and I mean, who can do that? So my doctor's response was, well, we don't believe we think this situation will correct itself eventually. Okay, I went to the emergency room. But there was that one time when I got the phone call and I explained to my doctor, I believe this was earlier this year, and I said to him, listen, I don't get me wrong, I understand that everything that's being done is for my own well-being. However, I am not going to the emergency room. I'm going to work, and somebody needs to start figuring the situation out. And if this is the best that we can do, then again, somebody needs to sit me down and have that conversation with me. So I believe it may have been that I finished out the week. If that was a Wednesday, then I went to the emergency room probably midnight Friday. Would have been the end of the week for me. I went to the emergency room. They admitted me as usual, but when I saw my hematologist the next day, I explained to him the same thing I had explained to my primary care, that something needs to be done, that I'm just not gonna be using the emergency room as a revolving door. I don't know what something, would that I could do, but something was going to have to change. So when I got discharged that time, they decided to try something. So first, they were giving me infusions on an outpatient basis. I would go every Wednesday and get a infusion. So after a while, they decided to put me on a medication that was a pill. Now, I imagine these infusions that I was getting on an outpatient basis was for one, to keep me from going in and out of the hospital, because that was my main objection. Because if I could go in and get infused on a weekly basis, then I can go to work later on that day. So, and two, um, I think I think there may have been some other things going on. So after a while, they decided to put me on something called Promacta. And Promacta is a drug that is supposed to reverse whatever's going on with my body, as far as my body believing that the platelets are a bad thing. So I started taking the Promacta, and I would say maybe a month or so after I was on the Promacta, I started getting a pain in my chest. So I figured, again, the kind of work that I do, you get little aches and pains. My job is labor intensive. I'll get into that in another video. But I figured, I'll sleep it off, wake up in the morning and do whatever. So I went to bed that night, woke up. I woke up, at first I felt pretty good, and then the pain in my chest, it had returned, and it was a little bit worse. So I said, all right, I'm no stranger to the emergency room. At that point, I actually had been given a card by the hematologist. If I ever needed to go, show them this card, and they would get me right in. So I think they were trying to make it as easy as possible on me, again, because I had the issue with going there. So now they're trying to make it as painless as possible. So when I got to the emergency room, they did their tests or whatever, and found out that I had developed blood clots in my lungs, pulmonary embolism in my lungs. So I didn't know at the time that was a side effect of this drug Promacta. Now, I'm not saying that to say that someone should have made me aware of that. That was totally on me. I should not have put anything in my body that I wasn't aware of the side effects, because I have known for a very long time that any medication that you put into your body is going to have a side effect. Doesn't matter what it is. I knew that. But I was so excited about maybe just not having to do the infusions, getting blood work every week, and whatever the case might be. So I decided to just take the Promacta, developed blood clot. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I eventually developed blood clot in my lungs. I had blood clot in my kidney. And one day I went to my hematologist, and after I got the blood clot in my kidney, and I said, well, how do I know if I had a blood clot in my leg? And she said, well, if you have a blood clot in your leg, there would be most likely swelling, and it would be painful. And I said to her, well, I have both of those things right now. She got me upstairs, did blood work, blood clot in my leg. So obviously, even though the Promacta was helping, it was a bigger issue, because we all know what a blood clot can do. It's I would say, as dangerous situation as low platelet. So they decided that they didn't want to take me off of the Promacta, but what they decided to do was they would try me on certain blood thinners so that I would maybe not develop develop blood clots, but they were not interested in taking me off of the Promacta. So the first thing they tried was Lovenox. Lovenox is an injection. I didn't really have a problem with the injections per se because I'm diabetic. I do insulin injections 4 times a day. So to do another injection, it wasn't a big deal to me in theory. However, I couldn't do the injections. When I first started with the insulin, I would be sitting there with the needle, and for some reason, and I don't know why, I've been told that it's not just me, but I would sit there with the needle and I just could not inject myself. And it took me a while, like over the course of weeks of not being able to do it. Sometimes I was able to do it to get to a point where I was just able to do it. It was a psychological thing. And I felt like that was the same thing that was happening with the Lovenox. So they said, okay, well, if you're not able to do the Lovenox, we understand. You're not alone in that. People, other people have had this issue. So we're going to try something called Eliquis. Eliquis is a pill. Started taking the Eliquis, and I developed a blood clot while I was on the Eliquis. So obviously Eliquis wasn't the answer. So now I'm still dealing with this situation. So they took me off of Eliquis and decided to put me on something called Coumadin. Coumadin is a common blood thinner, from what I understand. And that was about, I'm going to say, 4 or 5 months ago. I started taking the Coumadin. I was going to the Coumadin clinic, and it was this whole other thing where they have to monitor me, and again, blood work every week, and they have to get it to what they call a therapeutic level, which, however they measure it, the number should be between 2 and 3, but they wanted me in the higher range, like above 2.5. So at first, the Coumadin wouldn't do anything. Like, they saw no movement at all in the count. So I was up to, I believe the highest dose I was on was 35 milligrams of Coumadin a day for, I would say, maybe 3 or 4 days. And all of a sudden, my level started to rise. The level of Coumadin started to rise. So again, fast forward, they got me to a point where I was at that range, and I was still getting tested every week while taking the Coumadin. So I wound up in the hospital about 2 months ago for a different situation, different video. But while I was in the hospital, they were giving me my meds and doing blood work. And what happened was they noticed that my platelets were increasing at a pretty nice clip. So when I got out of the hospital, it was the middle of November. This is January. In the middle of November, I got out of the hospital, and my platelets were about 289, somewhere around there, if I remember correctly, almost 300. So the following week, I went to go do blood work, and they were, I'd say, maybe high 270s, 278, 277, whatever it was, which is great. That's outstanding for me to be out of the hospital for a week. And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, because my platelets were so high, they did not want to, there was no need for me to take the Promacta. So I was off of the Promacta, and my platelets were stable, which is, I don't remember the last time, or well, probably before I developed this issue was the last time this happened. So I'm out of the hospital. one week, the second week, they dropped a little bit more, but still great. For me, it's still great. Third week, fourth week, I'm probably around 2.5. Fifth week, I'm probably at 230, whatever. So now there comes an issue. So I went to go see my primary care. I said, listen, I'm still good, as far as the numbers. But we're trending downward. What's going to be the game plan? Like, it looks like, I'm holding, but it's not, this is still outstanding for me because, like I said, they would get them off the ground to maybe 75,000, and then 2 weeks later, I got nothing. So this is still great. It's still great news, but we need to have Plan B, on deck. So he said to me what they were going to do. They were going to cut my dose of Promacta in half. He prescribed it. I went and picked it up. He said, but do not take it until your platelets get to 150. Well, which I say 150, but it's 150,000. When your platelets get to 150, you're going to start taking a half dose of the Promacta. Okay. Went to go do my blood work. We're down to high 220s, 229, to whatever. Last week, I went to go do my blood work, and I was at 208. So now I'm saying to myself, okay, this is not what I want to do. Lord, I appreciate you. I'm grateful like you wouldn't believe for what you have done, but I was still concerned. Now, as I've said in previous videos, I've learned not to worry anymore. I don't worry, but I was concerned. So at 208, I'm saying, okay, when I go do blood work this week, it's got to be, I'm going to say the first number is going to be a 1. That's what I was expecting. So I'm getting ready to go back on this Promacta, which was throwing clots and whatever, and I'm saying, I don't know about this. I don't know. So anyway, from 208 last week, I went and did blood work 2 days ago, and my platelets are at 239. So I said all of this just to say, there was a time not long ago, I'm talking about maybe 4 or 5 months ago, when they couldn't keep my platelets in the double digits. And now, for some reason, I don't know, my primary care doesn't know, hematology doesn't know, but my platelets are rebounding and staying at a more than acceptable level, even more than before I developed this situation. Apparently it's a common test that they do. So my primary care was able to look back and see what my range was. It's higher than even that. So again, this is one of those things that I believe, and I realize I said earlier, I don't know why. When I said I don't know why, I mean, I don't have any other explanation except the fact that my Father in heaven is doing something else positive in my life. Now, let me say this. On this situation alone, I would not have started a YouTube channel. But these type of things have been happening with my health for years now, where I thought I was done. I mean, to the point where you get it in your head sometimes, even though I've always been a believer, as far back as I can remember, whether I was in church, out of church, or whatever, I've always been a believer since 9, 10 years old. But you get these things in your head. And at one point I had it in my mind, and I started writing the letter. Like, okay, here's the password to my phone. Here's the password to my iPad. Here's how to get into my computer. Here's where I keep the title to all my vehicles. Here's, getting that together. Because, you know, at some point it looked like the writing was on the wall. But here I am. My Heavenly Father is alive and He's real. And that's what this whole YouTube channel is about. And I'm going to share more. I have much, much more to share as far as the things that God has done in my life pertaining to my health, pertaining to other situations, relationships, everything. It could only be Him. It could only be Him. My doctors are scratching their heads. It could only be Him. So I feel like He's not allowing me to experience these things to keep it to myself. And I would sit around and I would think, how can I share this? What platform would I be able to put this on where I can get this out there on a consistent basis? Because I can't keep this to myself anymore. To me, it feels unfair to keep this to myself. So this video is running a little long, but I'm going to get into another situation. So a few years ago, I went to Dubai on vacation, and that's another video. But I had no regrets as far as the trip. It was a very, very nice trip as far as I'm concerned. It was a very nice trip. However, if I had something to do over again, I would have had better camera equipment. I was using my phone to shoot everything, and I felt like that, my phone took good pictures, but when I looked at the pictures that I had and compared to what I actually saw was different. So I was planning another trip, another video, I'm going to Egypt. So I said, before I make that trip, I'm going to get camera equipment, start dabbling and what have you. So I started getting camera equipment and learning how to shoot video with cameras. Right now I'm using my phone because if you haven't seen the introduction video, I needed to get this content out there. I had this idea for so long, and God had just continued to do more things and more things, and more things. I wanted to get the content out there. So right now I'm using my phone, but I do have camera equipment. But when I started thinking, how can I get this content out there? It dawned on me, hey, you have all this camera equipment that you're thinking of using for a trip that you're going to take that got postponed, by the way. Again, another video. Got postponed, but it's going to happen. That's going to happen. I'm going there. I have to see that. But it all just came together that way. Okay, now I have all this camera equipment. It just so happens that my office is being redone, so to speak. It's a small space, so I have to kind of strategically put everything in there. But it should only be the next few videos may not be in there, but maybe another week or so I'll be shooting in my office. But anyway, I think that may have been God's plan all along. I was planning on getting camera equipment for my trip, but it just so happens I have, tripods, lighting equipment. I just started collecting equipment for videos. So I believe this is all ordained, and we'll see where it goes. Like I said, if it encourages one person, a single person, then I will count it a success. So This video, like I said, it ran longer than I expected. I knew it wasn't going to be 10 minutes, but um, I hope someone has been encouraged, and there'll be more videos to come. I have some videos already that I am going to put out soon, but I'm also working on my introduction so that you don't see me reaching for the stop button or watching me walk into frame. Um, that's something that I'm working on also. But as I said in the third video, the growing pains video, I'm going to just put the content out there. I'm gonna do my research. I'm gonna make sure that these videos consistently get better, but I'm not gonna hold back because I forgot to button my shirt, or my tie was crooked, or whatever. I'm gonna put the videos out there because the purpose is that someone be encouraged by the things that I have and that I am going through. I still have challenges. This is not a, this is not a culmination of something that God has done. It's what He continues to do in my life. And this one example is just one example. I wish I could go on and on and on, but I will. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you've been here before and you tried to hit the notification bell, there was an issue. One of my coworkers let me know. I believe I fixed that issue. So if you want to know more about my situation, where I'm going, how I'm progressing in school, I'm studying for my master's degree in theology and also healthcare management. If you'd like to come along on this journey with me, I would love to have you along. Home of the Crown is a place where everyone is welcome, regardless of your faith or whatever. If you feel like this is some content that will benefit you, by all means, tune in, subscribe, and there's much more interesting videos that I have to share, and I'll get the content out there as quick as I possibly can. So God bless and have a blessed day.